Hi there. So, permaculture. It's actually not a simple thing, is it?
No, it isn't. It confuses a lot of people. The word permaculture itself is just like, could just mean anything, but actually it means permanent culture. Permaculture. Yeah. Permanent culture, yeah. Walk with awareness. That's part of permaculture. It's just being aware of what's around you and thinking. And you do end up thinking and being aware.
Is it a growing movement then?
Well, it's quite exciting at this time. I mean, I first got involved with it in the late 80s, and I think there was 900 of us part of the Permaculture Association. I don't know how many there are now, but the EU directives for growing food are very similar to what the basic permaculture ethics are. Right. So it is growing. It's amazing, actually, yeah. After 30 years, yeah. It is exciting, though, that things are finally moving on.
Yeah, no, that's great. How did you come to hear about permaculture?
I read a little book called The Star and Furrow, and there was an advert in it for a permaculture course, and I went along, changed my life, fell in love, went down to Devon. That was the start. And that was in 1989.
You gardeners.
Yeah. In 1989, 1990, I was in Totnes because that's near where the permaculture office was. And at that time, there was a lot of what you'd probably class as alternative people there. And they had a pavilion, and they used to do drum dances, just drums, and people would take their shoes off, and you danced for like 20 minutes. And it was just, it was just something we didn't ever do in Scarborough, put it like that. At the same time, there was a place called Riverford, and he was just getting off the ground then, doing boxes, and he opened a lovely farm shop, and he sold pork and apple pies. And I used to have one of those most days on my way to the permaculture office. When I talk about boxes, I'm referring to the box scheme where people have vegetables delivered to their door every week. And nowadays, Guy from Riverford, he distributes throughout most of the south of England. I was lucky enough to share a thatched cottage in Devon with one of the permaculture tutors. And he took me to, I think I went on the grand tour, and I went to meet Arthur Hollins, who lived in Shropshire, and he had cows, and he was known for his meat feasts. So we went and spent the night and had a meat feast and met his children, and we learnt about building soils. I mean, it takes a while to build a soil, but he was really doing a lot of experiments then. He had cows, and he kept them in the field all year round. He had these really strong growing grasses, mixtures of clovers and cocksfoot. He really experimented with his grasses. Sometime later I met Bruce Marshall. He's another chap that was always one of the features of a permaculture course, how to regenerate soils, and Bruce did that. 100-acre peat bog, and he also had another 1,000-acre of hillside which he was working on. He was just wanting to re-energise the soil, and so that his sheep could have the maximum amount of lambs. So he actually did have twins when he finished. You've got really rich pasture, you can have twins, and that's what he ended up with. His sheep had twins. And he fertilised the soil by distributing limestone and clover, and that aerated the soil, raised the pH, and the worms just multiplied. So he had a bright green hillside compared to his neighbours. The worms, together with clover, produce at least 200 pounds of nitrogen a year, so unlike his neighbours, he didn't have to add nitrogen to his soil. A healthy soil should have a good population of worms. I went and worked on a farm in Devon when I was down there picking potatoes, and I was worried there'd be a lot of worms because I'm a bit squeamish about worms. But there's just no worms, and that's because he used a lot of fertilisers which kill worms.
You mentioned a book that you read in your early years, Star.
It was a little pamphlet called The Star and Furrow, and it was printed by the Biodynamic Association, which I've never heard anything like that before, like planting by the phases of the moon. But I'd been to Jamaica in '86, and people over there were more aware of. They even knew what time of day to cut the sugar cane. There was another book called Food for Wealth or Health by Robin Jenkins, and that explained about the industrialisation of food manufacturers and how it's for profit rather than nutrition. Yeah, they don't really care how healthy we are because they're just there to make profits.
Right.
Look at the amount of sugar in food.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we're addicted to it.
Well, there's certain things it does to your brain. Yes, yeah.
Didn't you end up in the borders for a while for permaculture?
I did. That's where my first permaculture course was. I mean, I'm saying first because I ended up helping out on 6 because I went down to the office and I just in Devon and started working in different aspects, helping run the office and helping run courses. But I went to the borders to Graham Bell, where he lives, the Lee's Stables, and he still is a really brilliant permaculture teacher. And I lived under. I didn't want to sleep in the barn. I wanted to sleep outdoors. So there was a yew tree with sort of a little fireplace underneath it, made out of a tractor seat. And so I lived under there. It didn't rain for 2 weeks in August. That was amazing in South End Scotland. I ate flowers and had a lovely 2 weeks meeting lots of inspiring people.